operate about a 20% profit. We have to spend most of that on legal fighting the Democrats. But if I had DEI, I just had to randomly hire a third of people, and obviously most of the time they're just sitting around. We would shut down. I mean, for people that don't know businesses, good companies are making 20% a year. I mean, but the communists just say, nope, you're going to do this.
Yes, no, you've described it in a T. That's exactly what I'm saying. And so you're not making 30%, and you've got to give it away. So I've had farmers. A group of farmers came to my home when Trump came in, and Elon was helping Trump, and they came. I thought one or two would come. About 20 to 30 farmers came to my home, and they pleaded with me to ask my son to persuade Trump to force the South African ANC government to do away with BEE, because their words were, "It is killing us. It is killing our farms. We cannot operate anymore like this." And I said to them, "We'll try." I advised them to take advantage of the offer that Trump made to take farmers to America, South African farmers. But many of them, or most of them, or all of them, said, "We don't want to leave our country. We love South Africa. We've been here for donkey's years. We are many generations here. We just want an end to this this crazy theft of our."
You see, when I see a place like that doesn't look like anything that you see on Netflix. So it looks like they have some really, I mean, it's not that rough. Like, they have way rougher places than this in Lagos, Nigeria. It's not like as if it's a competition, but I think it's pretty safe to say that South Africa is probably like as good as it gets, right, in Africa. So if they're having these problems, then you can imagine how bad it is for, say, like Nigeria, for example, the giants of Africa. The so-called giants of Africa, of course, that is. Yeah, back in the day, they used to call us the giants of Africa, but I don't know. Not so much today, guys, not so much today. Nigerians are hardened, and all of them are leaving the country because of bad leadership. They end up leaving the country, going to the US, going to Canada, going to UK, Australia. And the funny thing is that when these people, they immigrate, they end up doing fantastic. Now, is it because of DEI, or is it just because they're like super hardworking and they've already experienced such hardships that now we're just grateful to be here. We're just grateful to get paid a fair wage for our efforts. We're just grateful that the playing field is a little bit more fair, right? Where like your qualifications seems to matter. And it's not all about who you know. I know that in the West, we still have connections and who you know, but at least you can get an entry-level job. At least, even if it's like being a bartender, you can at least make a living. So I think, could that be why? I don't know. Like, y'all let me know down in the chat. Like, why is it that it seems that, especially Nigerians, I've noticed this with Nigerians, why is it that when they leave their country, which has like very corrupt leaders, that they tend to thrive in the new countries? Is it because of DEI, or is it because of merit? Let's talk about it in the chat, guys.
Of our production and our income and so forth, So it's chaotic. It's just getting worse all the time, So
well, when we watch liberal media here, and I know nobody about South Africa knows the basic players, but correct me when I'm wrong. They're like, look, the blacks are rioting as the evil white people, but then most of the time it's the outside blacks from outside South Africa fighting with them back and forth, and most of the time it's just roving bands that'll rob black, white. They don't care.
Yes, opportunists.
Yeah.
Yes. A lot of the killings that have taken place on the farms is not particularly political. It's just opportunism. In other words, there's no police force anymore. We used to have a very effective police force in South Africa. We don't have that anymore. We have a very, very, very weak police force. Just to mention, last month, the Minister of the Interior was caught bringing in $200 million worth of cocaine to one of our harbors.
Wow.
And earlier this year, the Minister of Police was caught bringing in $300 million of cocaine into the country. And, that's what we're living with. The previous chief of police was sentenced to 15 years for trafficking in drugs. That was the chief of the police. So that's what we've got in South Africa. It's actually almost comical. And, the situation is not going to get better until you have, if you return to the type of government that we, not to say apartheid government, but the government where you actually, they're not in governments to simply fleece the coffers of the government and take whatever money they can and escape.
You got to bring back the private property and the security and the incentive to build. And the communists know full well that would give people their own independent power, so they don't want it, but in the end, it always destroys the country. So their very philosophy gives them power for a few decades, but always destroys it in the end. How do you see South Africa? Do you think that South Africa can come out of this, or does it first have to totally collapse, and what would that timeline be?
Well, nothing really. Well, I don't know about totally collapse, but what we've got at the moment is that the government is providing a subsidy to 30 million. The total population is about 63 million, we think. And the government is providing a subsidy to 30 million people every month of approximately $150. Now, that might sound very small in American terms, but on $150 in Africa, and certainly in the countries north of us on much less than that, they can feed a family of 4 for a month. They don't have mortgages to pay. They live free on the land that's available. So they don't have anything to pay for. They simply buy food with that.
So while I agree with him that $150, what is that? I think probably 200,000 naira. I don't know what that is in South African currency, but I'm not so sure that with 200,000 naira that you're able to feed a family of I don't know if you said of 3. Is this family with 3 kids? Because nowadays in Nigeria, from what I've heard, haven't been since 2021, but from what I've heard, price of things have gone up, especially since this whole, you know what it is, right? Operation Epstein Fury, right? Especially since that, it's been going downhill very fast, right? But it is true that, because I know that in Nigeria, teachers, my mom was a teacher, and her salary, I don't want to discuss her business, but essentially teachers in Nigeria, their salary is literally 40,000 naira. And that was considered good. But this was back, to be fair, this was back in 2023. As of 2023, we had teachers getting paid 40,000 naira a month, which is literally not even up to $40, guys, a month. So it is true that people get paid very, very little. And that's what I was talking about getting paid a fair wage and why people would rather come here. You will literally have doctors and bankers. I believe a doctor's salary in Nigeria is 250,000 naira. So a doctor literally is not even making up to $300 a month. So then you wonder why when you see people driving a cab and they're like, oh, you're a doctor back home. Well, yeah, it's possible. It's possible that a doctor back home would rather be a cab driver here. Because as a cab driver here, you get paid more. And then you're able to actually get compensated a fair wage. And I think that's something that people miss sometimes, is how good that we have it here in the West. Yeah, I'm glad to be here, guys. I'm glad to be here.